Good fucking morning slash afternoon slash evening to all my beautiful people out there tuning in to this episode of the Modern Mastery podcast, where we help you build yourself, build your business, and join the new 1% of individuals that are living a meaningful, free, and fulfilled life. Almost fucked that up. Through self-development and online entrepreneurship. In this episode, I have my boy David Mendes, who we've been in touch for a long time. If you guys are listening to this and you've been following me since the inception of my Twitter account or my journey, then you know David. You absolutely have to know David. He's been a good friend of mine since the very beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, or at least the journey of my personal brand and building a name for myself. And we have a deep conversation about life. That's really the best that I can explain it. Just going through the motions of life, the waves of life, and how to deal with that on an internal level. And one of my favorite parts of that conversation was explaining life as a video game. And some of you have heard this before, the whole concept of how life is a video game, and you start off with nothing, you level up, you gain experience, but once you listen to this, you'll understand it a bit more, and it'll give you a perspective that you can always go back to look at life from a different lens and get back on track in the way that you need to. And eventually you get to a point where you're like level fucking 99, super warrior, stacked armor, and you can do whatever the fuck you want. And you should think of it that way, right? When you're level 99 super warrior, you can go around and you can fucking kill dragons. And in the metaphor of life, as a metaphor for life, that's very true. You're not going to go and fucking slay dragons, but you're going to do something similar. And so I can't wait for you guys to listen to this. But before we get into it, let's talk about Modern Mastery HQ. MMHQ is a tight-knit community of creators, coaches, freelancers, and any other ambitious individuals that want to grow themselves and their businesses. You get to steal the proven systems, strategies, and processes from myself, a marketing consultant, and Joey, a performance consultant, to build a predictable and sustainable income source as an online entrepreneur through both tangible and intangible skill acquisition. This success is a result of becoming a high-value individual. This is what we help you achieve. The information inside is responsible for making members tens of thousands of dollars and drastically improving their quality of life. From monthly trainings, weekly action articles, 30-day habit challenges, monthly live calls, real-time help, and much more, it is the all-in-one solution for growing yourself and your business. As an entrepreneur, your business growth relies heavily on your personal growth. In Modern Mastery HQ, we nearly force both of those. If you absorb the information and do what we say, it's near impossible to fail. Our processes are time-tested, and we hold absolutely nothing back in terms of the information we provide. So if you want to join 450 plus members in accelerating their journey to a sovereign and free life, go to join.modernmastery.co and join for less than the price of a night out. With that said, I have a few favors to ask that cost $0. So if you enjoyed this podcast, subscribe or follow, depending on which platform you're listening on. It's just one button click away. It takes 1 second to do this. It costs nothing, and it truly helps support the growth of this podcast and get more organic listeners. The next thing, you can leave us a rating and review, letting us know what you thought, or just leaving a comment if this is on YouTube. Or you can tag us at Modern Mastery on Twitter or at Modern Mastery HQ on Instagram with a link to this episode and some kind words. And if you do all three, send us a DM and we have something special to give you. Without further ado, let's dive right into this episode of the Modern Mastery podcast. 2, 1, we're fucking starting right now. All right, David, can I get a old school let's fucking go?
Let's fucking go! Yeah, that was probably
All right,
very loud.
Sorry, listeners. I don't know. The Zencaster, I think it calms it down. It equalizes the audio, so it only ear raped them a bit. But David, the fuck is up? How
What's
are
up,
you?
my man? I'm fantastic, bro. You? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Where'd you just come from? What just happened?
Yeah, so I was having dinner with this chick, and yeah, when she asked me to go to dinner with her earlier today, I had forgot that our podcast was today. So when I got there, I was like, "Oh shit!" I got like a Google Calendar reminder. And I was like, "Look, I'm gonna have to leave early." And she was like, "Yeah, okay." And yeah, we were there, we're talking, yada yada yada. But then I'm like, "Yeah, it's getting close to the hour scheduled," and I'm like, "Yo, sorry, but I gotta leave." And I left basically. Left her there hanging out to dry because
Yeah.
that's what the fuck we do. Priorities, man. You already know.
Priorities, homie.
Yes,
But
sir.
before we dig in, I have a question for you that I've been
Okay.
asking on every other podcast. Feel free to take your time, mull it over. But what is your life philosophy in one sentence?
My life philosophy in one sentence. Can it be like a really long sentence?
Yes, yeah, I can.
Okay. I'd say that my life philosophy is to be to unapologetically embody and ruthlessly embody everything that you believe in and represent that with every fiber of your being, no matter what people might think or say to you. And that's,
Congruence.
yeah,
Yes,
100%.
sir. That's it,
It's
man.
very based on congruence, and I'd say also authenticity, man. Like, I'm at a point of my life where doing shit that doesn't feel aligned with my core principles and the shit I believe in just doesn't make sense to me anymore.
Mm. And how did you get to that point? What was the process? I'm sure this could be a long fucking story. You can make it as long as you want. But
Yeah, of course.
what made you realize that?
It was a lot of life experiences, man, because here's what happened. So throughout my life, I've always been I'm a very kind person by nature, as I like to give a lot to other people, and I'm a genuine friend. Like, you know this, like, to the people that are close to me, like, I'll go to whatever extent I need to go to help someone that means something to me.
Mm.
But the problem with that is that growing up and getting up until this point, I'm a man now, I'm 24, but getting up until this point, there were a lot of occasions where I compromised on my own principles and my own beliefs to basically please other people and comply to certain things that I didn't believe in because I didn't want to create conflict or you know basically just to facilitate something or you know be like, oh, it's fine, when in reality it's not fine, like. And going through those experiences and not only going through those experiences, but what those experiences actually cost me throughout my life in terms of um, uh, you know it cost me a lot to do those things in the long run, because what happens when you and I can give you this from my own personal experience. Like, what happens when you don't live in alignment with the shit you believe in and your actual principles, and your principles are actually something that is malleable and that is formed over time, obviously, as you grow. But your core sort of structure, like when you do a lot of these things where you're tolerable and comply because you don't want to cause conflict, and you do things because you don't want to upset other people or you want to please other people, what ends up happening by doing this like for extended period of time is that you will start to feel like um, you'll start to feel lost, like
Mm.
your identity will start sort of shattering, and because like those were supposed to be your core principles, but like you're contradicting yourself all the time. So it's kind of like like in your subconscious, what starts happening is that you start to lose your sense of identity, and like nothing, like it's what they say, like when nothing matters everything matters. And like when you start doing that, like you start to lose what what matters to you, and you start to lose the direction that you want to go in because you don't have principles to guide you to where you want to go. So what happened to me was, after doing that for doing that for a lot of people that I liked, that I loved, like doing that for people that were important to me, but doing that for extended period of time like really damaged me psychologically, and it got me to a point where I was a mess. Basically, I was a wreck. And at some point I decided this is not what I want to do anymore, and this is not what I want for my life anymore. And I made a conscious, genuine effort to start, to basically outline the shit that mattered to me, and where I wanted to go, and like start being ruthless about that, which is
Mm.
why my life, I'd say my life philosophy in one sentence is that, because if you don't do that, nobody else is going to do it for you. And that's what people don't realize either. Like nobody cares about your problems as much as you do. Nobody's coming to
Mm.
suddenly fix your life. So why the fuck do you got to do all of these things for these other people? Like that's
Mm.
not gonna get you to where you want to go. Like obviously I'm not saying like to be a fucking selfish prick or something like that, because I'm very selfless. I give a lot to a lot of people, but it comes from a place of it comes from a genuine place. And the reason it comes from a genuine place is because I do live by my principles. And I by
Mm.
living by my principles, I got put in a position where I can selflessly give to other people, because you know my cup is filled, right?
Right.
But what I was trying to do is that throughout that whole period of my life was like try to give to other people from an empty cup, and that just left me fucking miserable. And the lesson I learned from that is like just be fucking ruthless with yourself, with your standards, with your boundaries. And like, bro, if people cannot understand that, they don't have a place in your life anyway,
Hmm.
basically.
Yeah. No, dude, that's powerful. I feel like we try to cater too much to everyone, right? It's the basic cliche that it always rings true once you go back to it, is that if you try to cater to anyone, you end up catering to no one, et cetera, et cetera. But there's also that point where like you have to experience these things that you're doing to actually solidify that knowledge in your head, right? Like if you didn't experience these things, you wouldn't be at the point you were now. So you had to go through those low moments.
Bro, I was writing on my notes about this today, actually, and I have like the perfect analogy for this. So basically, life is like a gamble, right? We take risks, we make decisions, and basically we create outcomes. That's how life works. It's a game of probabilities. And basically, failure and defeat, and victory and success are two sides of the same coin, right? In life is all about flipping that coin. Now, when you start out, you don't have like the things that help you rig the game in your favor, because the game can again, it's a game of probabilities. You can't increase probabilities. You can never have something like 100% certainty, because that's just not real. but you can rig the odds in your favor. But when you're starting, you don't have anything. So what I mean by that is like the things that allow you to rig the game in your favor, you don't have them yet because you're at the starting point. It's like a video game. You start out with nothing, no equipment, no levels, no nothing, right? And the things that are gonna, allow you to, turn the odds in your favor is, knowledge, wisdom, relationships, leverage, capital, health. Like all of these things help you rig the game in your favor. But when you're starting, like it's very unlikely that you have any of these things, right? But the number one factor that sort of rigs the odds in your favor is boldness, like the willingness to play the game, the willingness to actually flip the coin. So when you're starting, 9 times out of 10, that coin will land on the failure side. Like it's almost guaranteed because again, you're in a position where there's not a lot of opportunities and you got to prove yourself and you got to build your skills, you got to build your wisdom, but you still flip the coin even if the odds are against you, because it's through flipping the coin and through going through the experiences that you accumulate and acquire the necessary components that basically will give you the power to rig the game in your favor. It's the accumulated experience that gives you the leverage to, in the next occasion, have the components and the tools to actually increase the probability of success. So honestly, like it's one of those ironies about life, right? It's like playing the game is actually what makes you good at the game, but when you're playing the game for the first time, you're not going to be good at it and you're going to suck and you're going to fail. But that's just part of the game. At the end of the day, it's by playing the game and by increasing your skills and by accumulating wisdom through experiences, through feedback, through like getting tangible results from reality, that you then gain all the tools and power to then start rigging the game in your favor and have better outcomes. And it's what you said, bro. Like without any of those experiences, I wouldn't be where I am today and I wouldn't have that life philosophy. I needed that to get to this point. And that's the biggest problem I see with people, is that people, what they try to do is they try to architect and design the perfect way to flip the coin and landing on success. But the thing is, you can't like without those experiences and those tools, you can't rig the game in your favor. So the coin is actually going to elude you, and basically what's going to happen is this paralyzes people, because people like are just trying to find a way to design the perfect outcome for themselves, but it's never possible because you don't have the one-on-one experience with the actual thing you're trying to rig, to actually have all the components you need to rig that perfect outcome. And this paralyzes people. And then what happens is people stop. And that's the worst thing you can do ever, is to stop, because now entropy is against you. That's law of the universe, man. If you're standing still, you're dying, literally. And waiting for the perfect moment, when the perfect moment's never gonna arrive, is just a recipe for disaster, because now life is going to punish you, because that's just the way it is. Like I said this once, like when the man does not challenge himself, life will find a way to challenge him, and that's just the reality of things, bro.
Yeah. Powerful, dude. It's I want to tie it back to like what you said about like starting out in a video game without any armor or whatever. So you think of experience in the literal, well, I guess figurative, like video game perspective, right? You start out, you're a fucking naked dude thrown into a random city, and then you go around, you can only fight like worms or something because that other things are too powerful. You have no chance. You don't have any probability of doing something big. So what do? You stack experience points, literal experience points, and at first you can level up pretty quick. And I would say, like, if you think of the Dunning-Kruger effect, like, you can get up to that point of thinking you know a lot very, very quickly. But then
Yeah.
soon you hit that point where experience starts to slow down. It becomes more of a grind to get further, to
Mm-hmm.
get higher level, and then you drop quick. Like, your mood drops, your mental
100%.
security drops, and you hit that point where you're like, oh fuck, I really don't know anything. And then eventually you keep going. That's the turning point. You can either choose to keep going or not keep going. And then when you get to the point where you're like level fucking 90 super warrior with maxed out armor, you're like, okay, yeah, I made it through the trenches, I understand this shit now, and I can do anything I fucking want. And that's the point that you hit. Like, I would say we've both hit a point, and it's hard for other people to understand this, where it's like, we can do anything we fucking want because we understand that life is this actual video game.
Exactly. Like, listen, that was so well put, bro. Like,
Thank you.
because, like, here's the thing: what most people do not get is that I was talking with Yus on my own podcast, and he said something that really resonated. Like, people want to follow their heart, right? At our core, I'd say that's what most people want. But
Right.
one of the crucial elements of following your heart is that you break your heart. And
Ooh.
that's how you make yourself stronger. In order to make your heart and your intuition stronger, you follow your heart, you follow your intuition, you break it, and then you build back up stronger, just like a muscle. And that's the part that people don't want to go through, because people don't want to get rejected, they don't want to
Dude,
fail, you know, they don't want to, they don't want to, it's very hard for people to rationalize the concept of rejection. And I understand, because I've been there, bro. Like, and I think I'm sure you've been there too. And it's such a silly thing to like be worried about, because it's a numbers game, bro. Everything in life is a numbers game. And as I said, the like, especially when you're starting, the number of uh, repetitions you do is by far the most important thing. And like, just the willingness. And I think this is what differentiates people, is like just the willingness to accept that you're gonna suck and you're gonna get rejected, and that's okay. To be honest, like,
yeah.
there's nothing. It's just ego. People are so attached to this like identity that they create about themselves, right? And there's nothing wrong with ego, but the problem becomes when you put too much emphasis on it, and then you're not willing to do what it takes, because or you either think you're above that, or I can't I can't, I see a lot of people doing this, like, oh, I cannot get rejected, because now that gives like passes an image on that, like, I'm not invincible as I proclaim I am, right? And
Yep.
like, the truth is, like, nobody is, bro. We're all like, bro, I could die tomorrow, you could die tomorrow, like, nobody's untouchable. And once you realize that, and like, you internalize that concept, then a whole realm of opportunity opens up for you, because now you're operating from a standpoint of, I'm just collecting data, I'm just collecting experience points, I'm just collecting the necessary resources for when that opportunity presents itself. I'll be ready, and I'll absolutely crush it. And this is why you see overnight successes all the time, is because these people were willing to fucking go there, and they were willing to be in the trenches, and they suffered and they sacrificed. And when the opportunity presented itself, it's like that saying, when the student is ready, the master will show up, or something like that. It's exactly that. When
Mm.
when the time is right and the opportunity presents itself, that person will have all the tools necessary to take full advantage and basically blow up. And this is where all
Yeah.
the overnight successes come from. But people don't realize that. People think it's all, oh, these guys must have like this formula or this secret or whatever. It doesn't exist. Like,
Right.
you
The
have to do the
formula is
work.
experience.
Exactly.
Yes, sir. I want to tie this back because I don't know why it doesn't really blow my mind anymore, but it blew my mind when you mentioned that thing from use about like breaking your heart and
Yeah.
then learning, like healing it and being able to follow that. But if you think about it from like a video game perspective, tying this back in, your main traits are mind, body, spirit, and possibly business. And then spirit is pretty much intuition. And so
Yeah.
you going through, as we talked about, the Dunning-Kruger effects for each of those, and then getting to a point where you're like maxed out in level or whatever the fuck you want to do.
Yeah,
That's
bro.
that's
Yeah,
where
this
that's what it's all fucking about.
and that's the thing. Here's another thing. A lot of people are too comfortable just winning at one vertical.
Mm,
And to me, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you gotta, I'm quoting Lobo on this, but you gotta train everything
yep.
legitimately. Like, people are like, oh, I see this all the time too. Like, oh, I just gotta build and things will come to me. Like, no, bro. Like, you gotta train game, you gotta train business, you gotta train persuasion, you gotta train uh, human psychology, you gotta train your body, you gotta train your nutrition, you gotta train your mind, your emotional control, you gotta train everything. Like, there's no like fuck being like fuck being like this guy who just went is really good at this vertical but then like is miserable in other aspects of his life. Like, I don't want to be that guy, and I'm sure a lot of people don't want to be that guy too. Well, honestly, you just got to train everything, and that's another thing that people miss a lot. Is like people dial in or on something. And that's there's nothing wrong with that, but you got always got to have in mind like you should always be cultivating yourself throughout the journey, because if you don't, then not only are you going to progress slower, but also like when those losses hit you, and they will, it's inevitable, they're going to hit you way harder because that's all you have, that's all you dedicate
Mm,
your time and energy to. And because that's all you have, then you take everything a lot more personally, if that makes sense. It's kind of like, and then you make things more important than they have to be. You give more importance to
yep.
things than they need to have, and then you get crushed because when you suffer defeat, like because that's all you have, and because you put so much importance into that. Like, think about that girl. I know every guy's gonna resonate to this. Think about that girl that you just loved, and like some next level shit, and you basically dedicated all your time to her, and you know and then guess what, and then you guys break up for whatever reason, and now you're completely crushed because, again, that's all you were putting that on the pedestal. And that's another thing. Like, when you put shit on a pedestal, that shit will elude you every single time. Like, no, I know this is very easy to understand with the girls metaphor, but like it's the same with business. Like, if you go into something like putting it on the pedestal, and like you're gonna spend your entire life chasing a goal, and you're not never gonna catch it because you're putting so much emphasis on it that it becomes basically you increase the perceived
Mm,
level of difficulty instead of the actual level of difficulty it actually has. And because
yeah.
you do that, then you get stuck on things that there's no need to get stuck on because you're overcomplicating.
Yep. That's it, dude. That's really fucking it. I love that metaphor too because the thing with all of this is that I love is that you can talk, everyone has different perspectives on this, right? Whether it be
Mhm.
it's all fucking, it goes back to train everything or mind, body, spirit, business, whatever the fuck it is. Those pillars of your life that you have to dedicate the most time to, and
Yeah,
understand your experiences from each of those pillars. That's the
bro.
thing.
Self-awareness is the real
Yep.
superpower. That's
there we
that's the
there
real
we fucking go.
superpower.
Yep.
Self-awareness
Tweet
is the
that
real
shit.
superpower. Because like that's another thing. Like people, that's another trap you can fall into. Let's say you embrace the failure and you put your mind into that. But what's going to happen now is you might embrace the failure, but if you don't have the self-awareness to analyze that data, that feedback, and figure out, okay, where did this went wrong? If you don't have the self-awareness to do that, you're going to stay stuck on that spinning wheel. Like you're not going to leave there because you're going to be repeating the same mistakes you've been repeating all along. And I see this with people, and I'm not just talking about business, I'm talking about everything. Like I see people all the time, it's like they're stuck in this loop of like doing the same shit. It's
Yep.
always the same mistake. It's not even, that's what is frustrating, is that it's not something like, yeah, like the guy tried 10 times and he failed 10 times at different things. It's not
Yeah.
that. Is you just being stupid. Is you just like not
Yeah.
stopping, and this can be hard when you're in the trenches because you're just going, and
Mm.
it can be hard to like find the time to like dial back and look at things from a higher perspective because you're so close. Again, you're putting so much importance onto this. I got to make this happen. I got to work on this. I got to do this. And then you forget about that, and then it's like you're just repeating the same mistakes. You're just doing the same thing. You're getting the same results, and you're not even thinking about that because you're so focused. But you got to find those times to just sit with yourself, realize where things are going wrong, where things are going right, what to double down on, what not to do. And after you do that, then you basically design a new plan. You design a new, a new way. And this is how you actually get closer to the goal. It's by embracing the failure, but also having the self awareness to analyze what you're doing and realize where you're being, what your weaknesses are. Because think about it like this. Let's say, like when you start lifting, for example, it doesn't really matter what you do. You can do whatever. Like you're gonna grow. But let's say you get to a fucking 4 plate squat. At this point, like a lot of more there's a lot of more things to be concerned about because you can just you know do this movement with the weak points, so you're as strong as your weak points. That's what I'm trying to say. Like if your quads can handle 4 plates but your glutes and your hamstrings don't have the power to blow up and bring the bar up when you're down there, it doesn't matter. You can't do the squat for 4 plates, even though your quads can handle it. This is the same concept. Like you could be really good at a lot of things, but if you don't have the self awareness to analyze where you're doing things wrong, you're strong. Like your system could be here, but you're operating here because you don't have the self awareness to realize like what your weak points are and what your mistakes are.
Yeah. Goddamn, dude. Good rant. But
Yeah.
I wanna take it back a bit, man. I want to take it
Take it
back
back.
to
Let's take it
o-
back.
OG when we first met days. Statue
Yeah.
David.
Yeah.
Statue David. And
Damn.
I know those were good days. That's like fucking 2 years ago, dude. It does not feel like 2 years ago. It feels like
It's,
two
it's
months
not
ago.
too. It's a year and a half ago, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a long fucking journey, man. But
Yeah, bro.
we've both tried different things along the way, so we don't have
Yeah.
to get stuck up on that because that's past is the
Yeah.
past. But I want to know of the journey from path to freedom to now. Like what were you pursuing then in terms of life, business, whatever, and then what are you pursuing now? Like that journey of iteration and experience.
That's a great question. And you know what? You know what? It's really funny. You know how in the sort of hero's journey, you start something with a goal and you go through this whole process, and then you kind of go back to the same place where you started.
Mm.
So that's where I kind of am right now. So I started that. I had it's that graphic, the fucking, I don't know how you call it, but um did you go up, then you go down, then you go up again.
Mm.
Basically I started that. I was having success, and basically I thought I was like this super, you know, I just had it all figured out. And then a few things happened and everything just started falling apart. And I got to be honest, man, I was not in a good place at the time. I already had made the decision that I was going all in on it. I quit my job by then,
Mm.
and I was not in a good place. I have to be honest. And it took a few long months to like really dial in and figure out like, okay, what what do I actually enjoy doing? Like, what is actually my purpose, and what the fuck am I actually building towards, right? And it's funny because I started Path to Freedom sort of like this journey that I was embarking on, like, and I thought like the end goal was something, and I didn't even realize I wasn't even scratching the surface of
Mm.
like the realm of possibility. And now, after a lot of pain and a lot of trial and error and experimentation, I'm finally at a place where things are going good for me again, and I've I'm being provided with these opportunities. And what I'm realizing is that, you know, for me at least, like, the whole goal was always to inspire other people. It's so funny. The whole goal of Path to Freedom initially was just, I'm just gonna document this and try to inspire other people to follow the same path, like to chase their heart, follow their heart. And then I got my heart broken in a sense, and my intuition broken. And like, fuck, I thought I knew what the fuck I was doing. Apparently I don't know shit. And it was very, very humbling experience, especially because in earlier that year I got a similar humbling experience in another vertical.
Mm.
And now I'm just like, fuck, I really I really have to dig deep, basically. So I
Mm.
did what I thought was the right thing to do, and I did exactly that. I looked inside, I tried to see like what do I actually want. And you know and during that period I was just like eluded as well. Like, I was like trying to a bunch of different things, and I thought I wanted this, I thought I wanted that, but that's not really what I wanted. And I just tried a bunch of different things. And now I have a much bigger vision and a much clearer idea of what it is that I want. And yeah, everything's coming together now. And at the end of the day, what's funny is that the mission remains the same, bro. The mission remains to
Always.
inspire as many people to follow their heart and break their heart and rebuild themselves back up. Because you want to know why? Because, bro, regardless of all the pain, regardless of all the lows, and there were lows, and regardless of all of that fucking bullshit, I can tell you this. I've never felt more alive in my life as I felt throughout this entire process. Never,
Mhm.
like, not even close. Like, the stress, the what the fuck am I gonna do, the pressure, like bills to pay, backs against the wall, bro, was painful, was hard, but It was fucking. I wouldn't trade it for anything else. And honestly, at the end of the day, bro, I think that's exactly what we're meant to do. And these challenges that we face, again, they're for your own good. Because without those challenges, you can never get to the next level. You can never, it's kind of like, again, it goes back to the weak point analogy. Basically, these challenges are just giving you the experience. It's like a bridge. You have a bridge. This is where you are. This is where you want to be. Each failure or each like challenge you face or whatever is just adding a little brick to that bridge. And slowly throughout these experimentations in self-analysis, self-awareness, you had brick by brick, and like eventually, and that's another thing, like for example, I know a lot of people get bitter towards, like, for example, and I know this because I've done that myself, but I find it silly now. It's kind of like when, let's say, you spend money on something, like on a course or a program
Mm.
or whatever, and it doesn't really work out, right? And you're frustrated because you spend money and you didn't get the result you were expecting, whatever. First of all, that's fucking silly because like money is just like, when you think about it, money is just fucking numbers on a screen, and like
Yep.
you can always add more numbers on that screen. That's the thing. Like you need to like really detach this idea that like you lost something. You didn't lose anything. And the other point is, like, these are just like those courses that you took, or that knowledge that you accumulated but didn't really did anything for you at the time. It's going to come a point where all of that is going to add up to something. And again, when the bridge is complete, it's just like everything's just gonna be so easy, and you're not gonna even realize why it's so easy. I don't know
Dude.
how to explain this in any other way, but it's like a light switch. Like
Yes.
it literally, everything just makes sense, but you don't really know why. But everything just makes sense, and it's exactly because of that. It's because of all those perceived failures at the time that didn't really do anything for you at the time, at that specific time frame. But that's because you lacked other pieces of the puzzle. But then when you have all the pieces of the puzzle, it's kind of like everything just comes together in a snap of a finger, and everything just
Yeah.
makes sense, and you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And in reality, it was all that progress.
Right. Dude, I have a perfect way of putting this, because this I've been on the same exact fucking wavelength right recently. So I'm writing a book, like a full book, right? You may have seen that on Twitter, but it's going to
Hmm.
be like a 2-3 year journey. I feel like I'm at a place where I can write the book now, but
Hmm.
I know there's still subtle details that I know will impact people more that I want to put in it. So
Hmm.
the way that I'm thinking about it, and this has been a common theme between a lot of people that I've spoken on the podcast with, is that building that bridge, right? And I'm going to add my own little twist to this. So the book that I'm writing is my bridge. I am building the pieces of that bridge and putting it into writing as I experience these things and as I learn these things. I'm building that bridge. So, one, I can go back to it when I get lost. I can go back and cross that bridge as many times as I want until I get back on track, back on the right trail. But also, the purpose of my life and your life, and a general purpose slash mission for everyone, is to allow other people to cross that bridge and learn from your experiences. And preferably, what I would say you should do is actually smash that bridge right in front of them. Maybe even in the middle of the book, I'm going to force them to go and do something that makes them fail. It breaks their heart. It breaks their intuition. It breaks. You're forcing them through that journey. You're kind of just cutting them off and letting them fall into the trenches in the middle of that bridge. And you say, "Hey, you know all the building blocks. Go build yourself your own bridge," and then let them do the same thing. And it's something that Eric Edge said on the last podcast, is like, you climb the elevator shaft, but then you bring the elevator up with you and you send it back down to bring other people up in. Right? That's the whole purpose of this all. Everything we're doing is to level up and then pass on our
The
experiences.
torch. Yeah, bro.
Yes.
And I resonate so much with that. But that, again, I don't think that's necessarily for everybody. I
Mm,
think that me and you think that way because we have a very specific personality type. Because,
right.
like, to us, I think that what really matters is the you, the individual. And to some people, that's not a reality, you know? And I'm not saying that's a problem. But what I'm saying is, for people like you and me, I get so much joy. It's so crazy. Like, I get so much joy of just helping the individual, if that makes
Right.
sense. And it's kind of like, for example, like, I'm in sales right now, and that, like, it's something I have the opportunity to do. Like, it's something I can, I literally sit on the phone with someone and I
Mm,
help them go from here to here. And, like, to me, that's why I like sales at its core. Like, it's not like sales is a great skill to have. I'm not saying otherwise. But what I'm truly passionate about sales is helping people go from A to B, and guide them through that process. And I think that sales is just one vehicle to do that. Like, there are
mm,
hundreds of vehicles to do that, by the way. Like, I'm not saying this is the thing as well. The thing is, sales is, for example, one vehicle that I'm using right now. But
right.
at the end of the day, my goal is to create as many vehicles as possible in my own name, to help as many people as possible go through that transformation. And, like, at the end of the day, I guess that at its core, that's why, you know, for example, people like you win, people like me win, people like Wiz of Ecom win, because the intention, the
Mm,
original idea comes from a genuine place. And you cannot, there's no way around that. You can't buy that. You can't, you know,
you
you
can't
really
fake
can't.
it.
Yeah. It's just, if what you do it with the intention, with a lot of intentionality, and you do it with the intention of genuinely getting people from A to B, you basically become unbeatable in that sense. And that's another thing that people don't get. Like, one of the major reasons why I have so much tenacity, for example, and you too, is because you can't, like, if I'm not doing this, what the fuck I'm doing? What the fuck am I doing? What the fuck else am I doing? Because
Yeah.
to me, doesn't make sense, bro. Like, do you get that? It's kind of like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna go back to the fucking office, work for the man, like, do shit. But it's not, like, part of it is about me and not wanting to do that. But part of it is, like, it doesn't align. Like, if
Right.
I'm not doing this, what the fuck else am I doing? Because I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, honestly, bro. Like, if I'm not doing this, then it doesn't make sense. You know?
Yep.
It, I don't know. Like, I don't know how many people are gonna, like, resonate with that. But to me, it's just kind of like, I'm not even monetizing my social media right now. Like, at least in a, you know,
Like
I have
promo on the
subtle way.
timeline type deal.
Yeah, I have subtle ways of doing that, but
Hmm.
I'm not actively doing that. And it's kind of like, what reason do I have to post content? Well, I
Mm.
do it because what the fuck else? Because to me, To me, it's important to. I know that someone is gonna read something, and the light switch is gonna flip, and
Hmm.
I know that someone out there will read something and or like just see something I do or post, and it's gonna flick, and in that moment that person is going to make a paradigm shift, and
Hmm.
from that paradigm shift is where everything else follows along. And that's why I do it. And I'm genuinely passionate about that. And that's something you just can't, I can't teach you that, honestly.
Right.
Like I can teach you how to run a sales call. I can teach you how to get people to do what you want. I can teach you how to lift weights. I can teach you how to write a tweet or write, you know, a long form piece of content. I can teach you that, but this I can teach you. Heart,
Hmm.
I cannot teach anyone. And that's something that's that sauce that people say. But again, I'm not saying that this is not this is exclusive to me. What I'm saying is that it's something that you got to find what your own is, and not only that, you got to cultivate it. Like it's that's another thing. Like people think just because you're passionate about something or whatever, that it's granted, it's given, whatever. Like you cultivate that, and like I guess that Lobo told me something, and that was like one of the most powerful things I've ever heard. And he said this. He said, "You want to be like me? Then be yourself." And that's like it's
Oh.
so it's so like so simple, but it hits so hard because like I can't like you want to be like me or like Dan or whatever or like your favorite person. Just then find like not find, not even find like then be yourself and build yourself. And that's it. Because like you can give I can give you roadmaps and strategies to go from A to B, but the thing, the one thing that is yours that you just know is yours, like you're gonna know it when it's there, but that thing I nobody can teach you that, and the only way to find that and to create that is by looking within and really figuring out who you are, and that's something I simply cannot teach you,
Mm.
basically.
Oh, that's good, man. That's really good. And it's something I was listening to a podcast the other day, forget which one it is, but they were talking about relationships and how it's funny because we were talking about this in the DMs like right before this, but what you just mentioned about intentionality, and it's funny we come back to this again. This is why this is a pillar in the three pillars of my book, experience. Intentionality comes with experience. That first time you get into a relationship, you're probably just in it for the pussy or just to feel good and put her on a pedestal, whatever you want. The first time you get into like becoming better mentally, or you hit your first mental downfall and then you try to overcome that, the intention behind it isn't to be mindful and learn from it. Same thing with lifting weights. The first time you go to the gym, you're going to be in there because you want to look jacked as fuck and you want to look good. But then the intention subtly shifts to like a health focus and just like looking good, feeling energetic. And then in terms of business, first time you get into it, it's usually for the money. I mean, you're trying to quit your job and that's your main drive. And then after it, it becomes, I want to help these people. I genuinely want to help these people because I've seen what it's brought me. It's everything's a fucking selfish pursuit, but there's degrees to that. There's a degree of selfishness.
100%, 100%. And here's another thing, you know, it's really funny. It's it's not. I wrote about this the other day. It's not about, people think it's about the outcome, but really it's about the person you become in the process in order to achieve that outcome. And that's really all it is. And that's basically a more fancy way of saying that the journey is the reward. But basically, what I'm like, let me give you an example. In Have you ever seen The Wizard of Oz?
Yes.
Basically, you know the lion, the cowardly lion. He goes to the Wizard of Oz seeking to be brave, be courageous. When he gets there, and after going through all these trials and tribulations, he's like, I want to be brave. You already
Yeah.
are, because you
Right.
went through that process. Like what you want, it's the path to getting there is where the beauty of all of it lies. And really, like, it's just, as you said too, like, it's through those experiences that you can, only then you can basically really figure out what it is. It's really funny. It's really funny because I could tell you two pieces of advice, and they are both correct, but yet they could be applicable to you or not. I could say pick one thing, stick through it, you know, and just follow through, and that's great advice. Or I could say experiment, dabble, and do a bunch of things, and that's great advice too, depending where you are. Because you could not know what the fuck you're doing, and then, dabbling and experimenting, and that's great advice. But then, the more you break yourself down to build yourself back up, the more your intuition develops, the more you're gonna know what it is that you're really good at doing, and that you can leverage to basically create these asymmetrical outcomes. And when
Hmm.
you know that, that's what I'm going to tell you. Pick one thing, stick to it, and do it over and over for big ass time.
Forever. Yeah.
And not necessarily forever, but you get what I'm saying, because
Yeah.
like this whole thing has levels to it. Like for me, I want to build these businesses, but one of the underlying reasons why I want to do that is so I get more resources myself, so I can expand the main mission.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, and people don't realize, is that like not everything. So there's another thing, right? Like people, for example, the personal brands, right? I have nothing against monetizing a personal brand or anything like that. But one of the things I see a lot is like people doing it for the wrong reasons. And then obviously it shows in their results too. And, you know, I personally am at a stage where I'm not doing the personal brand to make money from it, right? But, I know people who do, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. My problem really comes when I see people doing that, for example, from a place of sort of take from others and siphon, right?
Hmm.
It's again the intentions, the underlying motive. That's the thing, right? And another thing that people don't realize, that everybody wants to monetize everything these days, but honestly, some things are better off you just doing them because you love doing them. And
Hmm.
again, this, I'm not saying this has to be specific to a specific type of thing, like or personal brand or YouTube channel or streaming on Twitch or creating, you know, whatever form of creation, right? But another thing that you're gonna face or find out throughout the journey is that not everything is meant to be a business or the fucking, you can make it one, but some things are better off just, you know, just being as they are. Because
Mhm.
what happens a lot is as well is like people try to monetize these things and then they have to not be as authentic as that they would like, because like they need to do it. And that's another thing. Like I'm a big like I'm a big advocate of doing what you have to do in order to doing what you want to do. And that's another thing. Like I could do a million things, but some things I just choose not to, because again, it is just one of those things that I'll do what I need to do in order to do what I want to do. And right now, for example, what I want to do is just create content just for the sake of creating content. You know,
Mhm.
that could change, right? Any day. Like I'm very flexible in that regard. But for now, like that's, I don't have like, I'm just doing it because I love it. And there doesn't need to be something associated with it. Like again, obviously, that there's like, you know pros and cons to that. But at the end of the day, bro, like what I'm trying to say here is like there's millions of paths to getting to where you want, and you just got to
Mhm.
find a way to leverage your best attributes into asymmetrical outcomes, and then leverage the outcomes you get to basically amplify everything. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
No, dude. That makes complete sense. And I would say I'm kind of on a similar wavelength, but like I read an article one time and it was actually really good. I might have to find it and plug it again, but it's like the balance that brands, because a personal brand is a brand, like either way. And
Hmm.
you have to think of the marketing perspective, right? Authenticity is an angle, but you also
Hmm.
have to take into account like real human nature and user or buyer psychology and whatever. And there's a
Hmm.
delicate balance there. And
Yeah.
wherever that dot falls on the line of like, oh, more marketing or more authenticity or whatever quadrant it goes into, that's really up to the individual. And that, I think that's where it fails. If it goes too far in one direction, you're fucked, right? If you
Hmm.
go too far in like the authenticity direction, you turn into a meme account. And I mean, not really, to an extent, right?
Yeah.
But then if you go too far in the marketing, oh, you're a scam, or you're just out to get people's money, you're annoying me on
Hmm.
the timeline. Or if you go too far into like the value route, you turn into a platitude account. And if you go too far in the other route, then you turn into something else. So it's really a delicate balance because they all
Hmm.
have their benefits, they all serve their purpose.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's
And that's
that's
the
what I'm
thing,
all
bro.
about.
Yeah, 100%. And then like again, it's finding what's yours, basically.
Yeah.
It boils down to that, I'm a big fan of just like you can borrow principles, especially when you're starting, and model like off people that you know are better than you at something. But the
Mhm.
whole purpose is to come to your own conclusions, you know?
Yeah.
And, like I think a lot of people forget that part, basically. A lot of people
Yep.
just go pick what works and ride the waves. But what's going to happen is that eventually you're going to get tired of riding the waves. And like what happens to those people that just ride the waves is they could be gone tomorrow and you wouldn't care that much.
Yep.
Like that's the thing. Like I could be gone from Twitter tomorrow, and I know for a fact some people would be like, "What the fuck happened to that guy?"
Yep.
Because it's kind of like at this point, I'm just at a point where I've had impact on a level that basically I'm not that easy to forget anymore. you know.
Yeah.
But that's because I did my own thing, and I
Hmm.
had my own path, and then I did a bunch of things that other people were doing too. But like I just found that sort of sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing goes for you, bro. Like 100%. Like again, like we're not. I wouldn't say we're not the fastest growing brands, or the most, the guys who make the most money or whatever. But there's something there that makes us unique,
Yeah.
right? And that, again, that's one thing that you just can't teach. A course is not going to teach you that.
Right.
Only through you doing your thing for a long time, only then you'll be able to, you know, set yourself apart from everybody else. Be your own individual. And I
Yeah.
guess that's the ultimate goal too, bro. Like, I mean, I don't want people to look at me and think like, oh, he's just another whatever, whatever, put whatever label in front of that,
Yeah.
right? And you don't want to be that too. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. That's what one thing people need to realize, man. Like in my personal life, everyone I come across as a vivid memory of who I am, like in whatever encounter we have, because I'm just a very unique individual. I'm not
Hmm.
some guy that you see every other day, basically. And that's who you want to be, because that's how you make an actual impact in the world. Like, and that's how you get people to pay attention to what you have to say. And that's how you get people to care about what you have to say. And again, that's something you just can't teach. This is something you just learn with time. But
Yeah.
that's the thing. People don't want to go through that process. A lot of people don't want to go through that, but you have to. That's what I'm
Yeah.
telling you right here. You just have to.
Yep. I think people do that either way. Like it's just the natural flow of life, but it's just a matter of kind of what you said earlier. Like instead of thinking about, okay, what did I lose? You have to think, what did I gain? And actually take that and use that as leverage.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that was a solid way to end everything. So, my final question for you is, what are you struggling with right now? And what are you doing about it? Because that second part, what are you doing about it? You can't just struggle with something and not be aware of it.
That's a great question. That's a great question. I think the one thing I'm still struggling about, that's sort of bothering me, is really has to do about uh I'd say patience.
Mm,
I'd say that my biggest struggle is finding the balance between being the really hungry and let's fucking do this individual that I am,
mhm,
and balancing that with the fact that in the long haul, you do need to have patience, and you need to not be rushed. And that's a hard thing for me to balance, because I just want to do things. That's like my nature, because I fucking get anxious when I'm not doing things that I don't find needle moving. But sometimes you have to do things that, don't necessarily yield a result right now, but
mm,
will the result in, like, 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, right? And the biggest struggle for me is finding that balance. What am I doing about it, bro? I'm just figuring it out. What I'm like, bro. When I say people to do the work, I mean it, because I do the work. Like almost every day, I go to my living room and I sit there, and I have like this this notebook, and I just sit there and I stare at it, and I'm just like, I open it, I write whatever's on my mind at that time, and I just try to get my brain into problem solving mode, bro. And
Yeah.
that's another thing. Like, it take. Uh, here's another thing before we wrap up. Another gem for the people. You guys need to realize your brain works through supply and demand. If your brain doesn't see the necessity to get something done, your brain is not going to give you the resources to get it done. So basically, what I mean by that is you're only going to get your answers once you have pick up the courage to go through the challenge. And that's the thing. The lesson the lesson is in itself the challenge. Like, you're only gonna get the nest like your brain is only gonna flick and is only gonna connect those dots when you put yourself in a position to connect those dots. And that's that's one example of how to do that. But the truth is, you just if you don't put yourself in the situation, your brain is never gonna give you the resources to solve that situation. And
Hmm.
no matter what ways you try to circumvent that, there's no way. Again, our brains work on supply and demand. Your brain is only going to find the solution to your problem once you're put in a position where you have to find the solution for your problem. It's kind of like that story that you moved to a new place, that had a more expensive rent. Now you had to find a way to make more money.
Yeah.
You know how people talk about that, and it seems like it's fucking stupid, but it actually works. This is why. This is why it works, because that's how your brain works. Because
Yep.
your brain is only going to find solutions to the problems it's currently facing. If you don't put yourself in a position where those problems are revealed to you, you're never gonna have the resources to create those solutions. So
Yeah.
it's complete. This to say what it's completely pointless to, in my opinion, spend a lot of time prepping or making plans or whatever. Like, just go do the thing, and you'll find a way. I
Yeah.
promise you'll find a way. And for me, the way I'm dealing with this is cultivating my patience, is to basically doing the things that will do that. But yeah, I'd say that's my biggest problem, and it's hard to balance as when you have that sort of high performance mentality and mindset where, like, I don't think, honestly, I'm just gonna be super real here, bro. It's sometimes it's hard to, like, and I'm so blessed to have to know people like you, and to have people like you in my circle, because it would be very lonely if I didn't have that, because nobody gets it. Really, nobody knows what it is to put yourself through these constant challenges and trials and tribulations and suffering and failing and banging your head against the fucking wall, and then reaching that goal, and just putting another one in front of it. You're never
Yeah.
satisfied. And honestly, I'd say that's my biggest challenge. But yeah, I'm working on it. I'm doing the work, and basically cultivating and doing the things that will help me in that regard. And yeah, uh, you know, I it's just one of those things, bro. You just gotta do what you gotta. It's the bro. It's the easy things that people don't do because it's easy, and because it's easy, people are like, oh, it's like reading the fucking 10 pages of a book every day. It's fucking easy. Yeah, nobody does it.
Yep.
But you do that for long enough, new spot, new dots are being connected in your brain, and be like, oh, then don't listen to those fucking dorks who are like, oh, books, you all you need is experience. Like, I'm not saying that you don't need experience. One of the crucial parts of the equation. But adding to that, like, the way I look at it is, you have experience as one crucial part. You have self-awareness, so you can take lessons from these experiences, and then, as a supplement to all of this, it's kind of like an amplifier. You have content and ways other people think that are better than you. Like, if you do these two crucial parts of the equation, and if you had this like as a supplementary like way of cultivating yourself and making yourself better, like, the results from this are going to basically exponentially skyrocket, just because you just have other perspectives that come from places that of other people's experiences. Bro, listen, to anybody listening to this, it's you don't have enough time to experience all the possible failure scenarios in the world. You just don't.
Mm.
And it's too expensive to do that too. Like, it's gonna cost you too much. So learn from the stupid shit that other people do, and supplement that into your own experiences, and do that, and it's impossible to not be successful. And yeah,
Fire.
I know I went on a bit of a rant there, but yeah, that's it.
No, dude, that was good. That was a fucking great way to end it. I love the like stream of consciousness that happens when like people get into the shit that they love and like know is true. But my man David, I appreciate you coming on. That was
Yes, sir.
fucking killer. I can't wait to get this out. And
Yes, sir.
any shameless plugs on your end? Where can people find you? What can you do for them?
Yeah. So, um, if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out on Twitter at youactualized. David Mendes is my name. It should be easy to find me. There's not a lot of people named David Mendes, and I'm fairly popular on Twitter, as they say. um, if you want to learn sales, feel free to reach out to me on the DMs, and me and my team will help you out. We have a program for that, and yeah, I'll be launching a private community soon myself as well, and be
Nice.
on the lookout for that. I have my podcast. I also have a podcast going on. Eventually, I'm going to bring my man Dan as well, and
Let's go.
yeah, you can check all of that out on Twitter. And I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation, and um, our perspectives. And
Yeah.
my man Dan, I really appreciate you allowing me to come. It was a pleasure. And yeah, man, let's keep it moving, man. Keep winning.
Let's do it, man. All right. Thanks again, dude. I'll
Yes.
see you next
Peace
time.
out.
My friends, thank you so much for listening to that episode of the Modern Mastery podcast. I have a few favors to ask you. For a whopping $0, you can support this podcast by following, rating, and subscribing on whatever platform you are listening on. And for an additional $0, you can share this podcast on your social media accounts, tag me in it at the Dan Co, and I will share you on the community page. This truly helps the Modern Mastery community and podcast grow and allows me to bring you top tier guests to fuel your hunger for wisdom. It costs $0, but it does cost you your time, and we understand how valuable that can be. But considering you spent an hour or so listening to this podcast, a 1-minute subscribe or follow button click and social media share isn't too much to ask. And if you truly enjoyed it, we would hope that you do this out of the kindness of your heart, and we truly appreciate it. And the second favor, which costs money, is joining Modern Mastery HQ. the only platform you need to master your mind, body, and spirit while building a 5 to 10K a month online business as a creator, coach, freelancer, or entrepreneur. You can go to join.modernmastery.co to join 350 plus members and gain instant access to information that has the potential of making you hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime as a business owner. With that, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Modern Mastery Podcast, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.